In Joseph Rubin's The Good Son, released in 1993, evil is not found in a supernatural force. It lives inside the most ordinary of homes in the face of a child who seems perfect. Henry Evans, brought to life with unnerving precision and haunting realism by Macaulay Culkin, stands as one of the most chilling embodiments of innate childhood evil. The film's title itself is ironic. The Good Son refers not to who Henry truly is, but to the mask he wears. The story becomes a moral experiment asking whether evil is born or made, and what happens when innocence and the corruption of innocence coexist in the same family. Hello world, and welcome to Cinema Nostalgica, where we break down nostalgic hidden gems. For the month of October, I thought it would be fitting to do more eerie and disturbing deep dives, so please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you know what movie's coming up next. I hope you have seen this nostalgic hidden gem, as there will be spoilers ahead. The Good Son is a psychological thriller about a young boy named Mark who goes to live with his aunt and uncle after his mother's death. There he meets his cousin Henry, an outwardly charming child who slowly reveals a dark, sadistic nature. We learn that Henry drowned his younger brother Richard, attempted to kill his sister Connie, and plays cruel psychological games with Mark, manipulating and terrorizing him. He even tries to kill his own mother, Susan. By the end of the film, Susan is forced to make the ultimate choice between saving Mark or her biological son Henry, confronting the terrifying reality of his evil. The movie explores the chilling idea of innate evil hidden behind innocence, and the lengths a parent must go to protect their family. Mark's arrival in the Evans household sets the story's emotional balance in motion. Having recently lost his mother, Mark naturally gravitates towards Susan, who becomes a surrogate maternal figure for him. For Susan, Mark's presence stirs both comfort and pain. He feels the quiet space left by her late son Richard, the very child Henry drowned in the bathtub. From Henry's very first appearance, Rubin signals something uncanny. Henry is wearing a white mask while playing, a visual echo of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. But more disturbing because Henry's mask is metaphorical as well. His entire life is a performance. He mimics the traits adults find endearing: intelligence, charm, composure, but beneath it lies a chilling void. It's easy to imagine that he excels in school, impresses his teachers, and earns praise from parents who have no idea what festers behind the polite exterior. This ability to imitate normalcy, to weaponize charm, is central to real-world psychopathy. Henry's intelligence makes him terrifying. It's not reckless or impulsive, but deliberate. Every act of violence is a test, an experiment in control. His manipulation of Mark is a masterclass in psychological dominance. Henry draws him in with false brotherhood. When he first meets Mark, he says in front of the parents that we can be brothers, knowing full and well he already drowned his real brother Richard. He uses violence the way older boys use hazing, to establish hierarchy. When he threatens to let Mark fall from the treehouse, it's not spontaneous cruelty, it's a ritual of power. He toys with death to assert that he's in control. Even Henry's hobbies reflect a fascination with mortality. He smokes cigarettes, smashes glass, and walks around a well where he can easily just fall in. All seemingly childish acts of rebellion until viewed beside his darker experiments, building a crossbow to kill animals, tossing his sister toward thin ice, crafting Mr. Highway. Each act escalates the same curiosity. What happens when life ends? His cruelty is grounded in realism, never straying into the supernatural. He's a budding serial killer, whose toys are the tools of moral deficiency. The horror lies in how accessible and ordinary Henry's hobbies and tools of violence appear. His weapons, like the crossbow or the Mr. Highway, could be constructed by almost any child, but it's the murderous intent behind them that sets him apart. His acts of violence seem almost effortless, from drowning Richard in the bathtub to pushing Connie onto thin ice, and he often escapes consequences entirely. With parents who are distracted or unsuspecting, his deadly impulses go unnoticed, making his evil all the more terrifying because it hides in plain sight. When he involves Mark in the Mr. Highway stunt, throwing a mannequin off the bridge to cause a pileup, Henry makes him complicit. Mark finds himself completely trapped. When he tries to tell Henry's father what really happened, we see the full extent of Henry's manipulation. He exploits his position as the biological son and threatening to lie to his father to frame Mark for the incident. Using Mark's grief over his mother's death, Henry points him as reckless and unstable. Mark, who is vulnerable, traumatized, and searching for guidance, becomes the perfect scapegoat. Henry's evil thrives precisely because it is believable, hidden behind the guise of innocence and charm. He understands that by forcing Mark's silence, he deepens the moral trap. And it's in these moments when Henry's behavior is escalating, when Mark is spiraling for attention. He is trying to speak to his therapist, and Susan, his now maternal figure that he believes is somehow connected to his own mother. But he is dismissed, not taken seriously, and even slapped for even mentioning the deceitful nature of their beloved son. At its heart, The Good Son pits two opposing archetypes of boyhood against each other, the innocent and the monstrous. Mark, played by Elijah Wood, represents the pure, grieving child, shaped by loss but still guided by empathy. Henry, on the other hand, embodies the quote-unquote bad seed, a child who lacks conscience, compassion, or remorse. Where Mark feels pain deeply, Henry feels nothing at all. Their dynamic reflects a clash between nature and nurture. Mark is emotionally scarred but kind, while Henry is emotionally intact but cruel. In this way, Mark becomes a living reminder of everything Henry lacks: warmth, empathy, and connection. He represents the version of boyhood Henry pretends to embody but can never truly feel. Their relationship evolves into a twisted mirror. Mark seeks belonging and love, while Henry seeks dominance and destruction. The dynamic isn't just sibling rivalry, it's the embodiment of good being drawn into the orbit of evil. Psychologically, Henry aligns with antisocial personality disorder, though he's too young for a formal diagnosis. His traits fit the pattern: manipulation, deceit, impulsivity, lack of empathy, and a blatant disregard for others' safety. He exhibits premeditated rather than impulsive violence, taking pleasure in deception and danger. There's no moral compass guiding his behavior. According to Kohlberg's stages of moral development, Henry would fall into the post-conventional stage, where right and wrong are dictated by personal beliefs and not social norms. He doesn't believe in rules or empathy, only his own power. But what's most haunting is Henry's lack of motive. At first glance, jealousy seems plausible: resentment of his mother's affection for his deceased brother, or the attention Mark receives. Yet as the story unfolds, this explanation feels too human for someone so devoid of feelings. He threatens his mother's life not out of rage or jealousy that Mark is taking his place. He does it just to hurt Mark. When Henry attempts to kill Connie, it was because he saw Mark getting close to Connie. He likes to take away things people care about. And perhaps that is why he drowned Richard. He likes to see people in pain. He manipulates situations to hurt people, then enjoys watching them loathing in fear and sadness afterwards. He doesn't kill to avenge, he kills to witness. His evil is not reactive, it's instinctive. In a sense, The Good Son rejects the idea as evil as illness. It was the 1990s, and the film resists framing Henry as mentally ill, but instead it suggests that he was just born this way, a child coded with a DNA of destruction. The film clearly subverts a tired trope in the evil child genre. Typically, it's the outsider, the adopted or fostered or newbie in the family, who turns out to be the threat. It's easy to side with the biological child against a stranger, but The Good Son reverses this. The evil one is the mother's own son, and the good one is the outsider. That inversion creates genuine conflict. The mother, Susan, isn't just battling to protect her family, she's fighting her own maternal instinct, forced to confront the unthinkable truth that her child was born without humanity. By the time she faces the ultimate choice to save Mark or Henry, the film becomes an allegory of moral clarity. She must let go of evil, even when it wears the face of her own blood. Call it the 90s, but the parents, Susan and Wallace Evans, was very neglectful of watching their children. I am going to put a lot of emphasis on Susan because she was a stay-at-home mom, and it seems like during the time this movie has taken place, Henry and Mark are not in school, it's probably winter break, and she just kind of lets them do whatever they want. I'm not going to focus too much on Wallace because it seems like he was at work for the majority of the day, but he definitely displays neglectful behavior as well. But for Susan, she did ignore a lot of red flags, like Henry's shed and she just let him be on his own way too much. If she had a closer eye on him, maybe she would have recognized some of his psychotic behavior. Susan does display odd behavior towards her children and even to Mark, like slapping him for Mark talking about Henry, but not slapping Henry when he was damn near attacking her. She lets Henry do his own thing hours and hours during the day, lets him walk around the town without even knowing where he's going, and even allows him to keep secrets from her. In this one scene, she does ask Henry what is he up to, and he said it's a secret and just walks off, not giving her any answers. That type of behavior is not acceptable, so this is what I'm saying when Susan was neglectful and ignoring a lot of red flags. Also, she never investigated Henry's shed until the moment when she finds Richard's lost rubber ducky. When she's walking through the shed, she's not even fazed by the doll with the noose around its neck, and she doesn't pick up on his manipulative nature until it's way too late. You would think with a mother's instinct, one would pick up on certain things about their children. It's like Richard is playing mental chess with the adults in his life, and they're being so easily manipulated, he controls the narrative and has them bend at his every will. My theory is that Henry hates his mother, and that's the core of his personality disorder. His cruelty is rooted in a desire to see Susan suffer. Maybe he never felt love from her or sensed that she was always checked out. He murders Richard in the bathtub not out of jealousy over attention alone, but to inflict the deepest possible pain on his mother, striking at the son she loved most. His cruelty continues to lash out at other people and animals. At dinner, Henry brings up Richard's room, and a conversation ensues between her and Wallace that they should remove Richard's things. Henry knows that this topic of conversation really upsets his mother, and he brings it up anyway. This highlights his fixation on displacing the son his mother mourns while watching her squirm in discomfort. The plot against Connie also escalates this pattern. Henry is willing to endanger her life, knowing it would devastate Susan emotionally, yet he shows no concern for the consequences. Even on the cliff, his attempt to kill his own mother reveals that his sadism is personal. He wants to dominate, frighten, and make her suffer directly. Every action, from Richard's death to the cliff's final confrontation, demonstrates that Henry is cruelly fixated on his mother. The cliff scene is the film's intense climax where all the tension and danger come to a head. Henry plots and successfully pushes his mother off of a cliff, and he even tries to smash a rock over her head to seal the deal. But before Henry could land the last blow, Mark comes to save Susan. She climbs back to the top of the cliff just when she saves both boys from falling over. Susan is forced to make an impossible decision: save her biological son Henry or her nephew Mark. This moment crystallizes the moral truth of the film. Henry's evil is irredeemable, and saving him would risk more death and suffering. Henry murdered Susan's son Richard and nearly took Connie's life. His death becomes the only form of justice left. So Susan decides to let go of Henry's hand, and he falls to his death. The scene is symbolic as well as literal. It represents the removal of evil, the restoration of balance, and the triumph of morality and love over calculated cruelty. Henry's death serves as both vengeance for Richard and protection for Mark and Connie, ending the cycle of terror he created. Her decision, it's the raw maternal instinct to protect what's left of her family and destroy the evil that's consumed it. Henry's death feels inevitable, like the universe restoring order after chaos. It's not redemption, it's retribution. And in that moment, the good son finally reveals its truth: that evil can exist where we least expect it, even in someone who should be loved unconditionally. So thank you all so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end of this video. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.